They say the Florida swamp never gives away its secrets, and neither does Sebring International Raceway. It's murky, mysterious, and more than a little mean. I'm Amanda Busick, and this is GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. The 2025 season is about to get into some deep waters. This is the final round before the summer break. One last chance to stir the standings, ground traction in the muck, and make a splash before the title fight gets even more Gator-like. Right now, the points margins are tighter than an airboat turn in a mangrove, and it's a small margin for Rothberg and Foley in Pro-Am, and an even slimmer one for Stevens and Grenier in Pro. Not just drivers weighing the pressure here this weekend. The world's fiercest manufacturers, 7 different this weekend, are in a down-and-out dirty brawl of their own. In the GT3 Wilds, the name of the game is survival of the fittest. Sebring is no place for the faint of heart or soft suspension. Its concrete jungle, once a World War II airfield, shakes these cars like a fan boat in full throttle. Every point is a prize. Every pit stop is a puzzle. And if you want to wrestle a win out of this swamp beast, you better bring strategy, stamina, and nerves as tough as a gator hide. Out here, the heat is heavy, the pressure is thick, and the circuit bites harder than a gator on a bad day. This is Sebring. It's sweaty, it's slippery, and it's downright savage. Let's get swampy.
There is no place quite like Sebring, as if the twists and turns and, of course, the famous bumps weren't enough. Now the Florida heat rears its ugly head as well. This is set to be a challenging doubleheader weekend for GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. You heard from Amanda Busick a few moments ago. I'm Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Calvin, the weather certainly is hot, but so has the competition through the course of the practices and qualifying. As you can see, temperatures already 45 degrees Celsius, well into the 90s Fahrenheit. Just how challenging is this going to be here this weekend?
Oh, big time challenge. I mean, Sebring by itself, when we talk about respect the bumps, the bumpy nature of the circuit, trying to get the grip levels where you want them to be. You add to that, coming here in May, the temperatures are just soaring here. So we saw some great laps put together here this morning in qualifying, but now the long duration runs. How are these Pirelli P0s going to hang on being tortured around this racetrack? That is the big question mark.
No doubt about it. We did indeed, though, see some really impressive lap times in qualifying. Philip Ellis put his Mercedes on the overall pole. That's a Pro-Am class car running their alternate strategy. Then we've got the BMW of Kenton Cook starting alongside. Mercedes and BMW, 2 manufacturers taking part in a global championship. And the GT World Challenge does take place all across 4 continents this month of May. Well, it's a busy one for everyone. Things kicked off under the lights at Sydney Motorsport Park in Australia, where Arise Racing and its Ferrari took a double victory a couple of weekends back. Meanwhile, on the other side of the globe, Europe's Sprint Cup began with a couple of races at the classic Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Honors shared there between Ferrari and Mercedes-AMG. GT World Challenge Asia visited Indonesia and the spectacular Mandalika circuit. That's the first time the series had ever been there. Amazing location, fantastic racing, and Origin's Porsche swept the weekend. Of course, we also had action over at Spa-Francorchamps, the prologue for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. The likes of Valentino Rossi there gearing up for that classic race. Still a whole lot more to come because we've got racing here in America this weekend, as well as over at Zandvoort. Race earlier today. Bastian Boost put Lion Speed in its Porsche on pole position. Chaos erupting a little bit further back in the pack behind them. 41 cars took the green flag spin there for the blue Ferrari of Dennis Marshall. Big incident as well for Yusuf Owega in the Mustang. But at the end of it, Patrick Niederhauser and Sven Moller took the victory at Zandvoort for Porsche in the Netherlands. So, after the races earlier today, or the race earlier today at Zandvoort. This is the look at the Global GT World Challenge manufacturers standings. Mercedes-AMG with the lead over Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, and Audi also scoring points towards that title in the 4 Global GT World Challenge Championships. And they'll be scoring points towards that here today as well at Sebring. A look live at the grid, getting ready to go. One of the cars that I think could be a dark horse for a good result across the couple of days of racing here. DXDT and their Corvettes, they've been really fast.
They've been superbly quick. However, for qualifying for tomorrow, they did get pipped by the Turner Motorsports BMW. Some pace in those BMWs this weekend. But yeah, the Corvettes look really strong here on this circuit. Great history, of course, with Corvette racing over the years in the 12-hour.
No question. Speaking of the 12-hour, our Calvin Fish is a former class winner of that great race. Who better to learn from about the Sebring International Circuit? Our track preview with Calvin Fish comes next.
History, tradition, and respect the bumps. That's what Sebring International Raceway is all about. Certainly one of the most challenging circuits that we run on all season long on the Championship Trail. And I'm joined this morning by Jan Halen, driver of the number 18 RS1 Porsche. In the championship, mate, you're coming in here with 3 consecutive podiums, and you're one of the most successful drivers here at Sebring. But I feel there's a couple of corners here, mate, that are maybe the most challenging that we run on all season long, and it starts here in turn 1. What do you think?
Yeah, this is certainly one of my very favorite tracks, yeah, you're right. It starts in turn 1. It's just such a challenge, and it feels so good when you do it right, and it doesn't happen every lap. It starts with the approach. It's a blind, blind coming in. I think everybody uses kind of the end of the wall there as a turning point, but then you're going in with so much speed. It's fun to. It's a very light tap on the brake. You're aiming for the board. You see it up there with the 0 on it. That's kind of your apex point. And then the real bumps really start after after the apex.
That's
so
when
it's
the
bumpy
really
going.
challenging already. Then you get to the exit here.
It's by the time you get to the 0, you know if it's right or wrong, and from there, you can go back to power, and it's super fun, and it feels good when you're doing it right.
Awesome stuff, mate. Well, I'll take the cap off for now, and we'll move on around the circuit. Yeah, and I really love this sector of the racetrack. You've come through Cunningham Corner, turn 10. Just a beautiful flow through here to get to this braking point for Tower Corner, turn 13. What are the critical elements of getting through 13 quickly?
Yeah, like you said, it's really fun coming out of 11. It's got just a beautiful flow coming into this. What's really tricky here is that as you approach the corner, the track drops away from you, so you tend to turn in a little bit earlier to avoid that big understeer and still get into the apex. You get that compression, and the car gets a little unsettled, and it's all about then just going back to power and try not to drop a wheel on the exit.
Yeah, I think you're always busy through this corner. I think your footwork needs to be as smooth as Belgian chocolate. Final corner on the track is Sunset Bend, turn 17. You scream down the Almond straightaway. You're over 150 miles an hour as you get into the brake zone here, Jan. When I raced here, I'm not sure I ever did this corner the same twice in a row. It's so tricky with the bumps. What are the key points for you on the entry?
Braking is tricky. It's blind coming in, and then just very bumpy coming in here. And then it's all about good car placement as you're getting to the bridge here. I'd say by the time we get to the bridge, you're back to full power. And then it's all about managing that last bump on the exit.
They say coming down the straightaway is like being in a paint shaker, and I think when you come through this corner, it's like being on a mechanical riding bull just trying to wrestle that car to the ground. Well, thanks for your time, mate. RS1 swept here last year. Hopefully they can do the same again this weekend.
Thank you.
And hello from the grid here at Sebring International Raceway. Ryan, you've been talking about the heat today. I would like to say that I'm glistening down here, but I can inform you that it is absolutely sweat. But we can start seeing drivers get ready as we kick off race number 1 here at Sebring. And Calvin Fish just walked the track with your co-driver. They talked about some smooth footwork, as smooth as Belgian chocolate. But I want to talk about the Porsche's chance here. We've had Mercedes win this year. We've had Corvette win this year. We've had BMW win this year. Porsche picked up the win last year. Why might it be you?
Well, it's our turn, right? So I think this is a track that always suits the Porsche. We've been really strong. RS1 have done a great job working through everything we've needed to. We don't do any testing outside of the race weekends, so we've always got a little bit of a heavier workload in practice than everyone. But everything's starting to come together. So, you know, fingers crossed we have a clean race and some of that Belgian chocolate carries us through the second stint.
Jan picked up the win here in 2023. What have you guys talked about today's strategy?
Yeah, I mean, having Jan is an awesome resource for me as I transition from the Cup car to the GT3. And I mean, really, the most important part, like you said, is the heat. You know, just keeping the tires under it, keeping you know, your energy up as well, and not kind of wearing yourself out too quick. Fortunately, it's not a super long stint, so there's still an element of management. But yeah, lots of experience to fall back on with Jan, and for me to learn from.
The RS1 Porsche will start second in class, third on the grid. And we talked about some of those wins that we've seen here this season. I'm going to move over to the JMF entry of the Mercedes. They come in as points leader in the pro class. And Mikhail, as Mackay gets seated and ready to go, what makes the Mercedes strong at Sebring?
I mean, there's a lot of medium high-speed corner here, which is quite good for our cars. We're struggling a bit this weekend on our side, but let's see in the race.
Now, as you guys plot your venture forward, I've been talking to John Farrow so much, and just what a team effort it is in that camp. How are you finding it?
Super fun, Canadian team, so first time for me racing for Canadian people. Yeah, we have good fun, good people on board. I don't think we expected to be that strong early in the season, so it's a good surprise. And we'll try to keep going till the end of the championship.
Thank you, Mick. And Ryan, I know you were talking about in qualifying just how strong that pro category is of the 4 cars competing here today. I'm going to see if I can find someone else on the grid. You have the Corvette entry starting here in P5. They picked up that win at COTA. We have Bill Oberlin behind the seat of that BMW. Bill obviously has a lot of experience here and really successful, as I see Robbie Foley getting Justin Rothberg ready for this race. And we talked about if you guys were restricting in qualifying, but you guys can't do that here in the race. What's your expectations for Justin?
Yeah, we're just going to try to get a clean start. It's a long race, very hot day today, so we're going to try to take care of our tires. And yeah, I think we'll be in good shape.
We know Justin's battling a little bit of a sickness. How is he ahead of this race?
Today, much better, so I think he's on the up and up, which is good. And yeah, it's going to be tough for everybody out here in this heat, but we'll try to keep cool in the BMW.
We'll keep going down this grid for just a little bit, guys, because I do want to tell the story of this Ford Mustang. Scott Dolehite had an amazing qualifying session earlier. I was talking to him ahead of the weekend. We were up in the GT Driver Club as he's got behind the wheel there. We were talking about just this growth within this platform. They kicked off in Sonoma, and he said if I had to rate my car at that moment, it would be about a 3 out of a 10-point scale. Felt the same way about COTA, and now moving up to a stronger performance. Said he's about like a 5 or 6, so knows that the platform is progressing, but his goal is to make sure that Ford is well represented in our grid with the growth that'll come throughout the season. Guys, that's the stories from the grid. It's about go time down here.
Can't wait to get started. Stay cool down there, Amanda, and stay safe. It is a really hot day here in Central Florida. Great to see some fans come out here to take in the spectacle. Fans are the beating heart of this place here at Sebring, no matter what event you come to at this racetrack, and they're brave to sweat it out here with us here this weekend. One of the things I love about this track is how it embraces the history, and this right there showing you the makes that have won that famous 12-hour race here overall over the years in the country that they come from. It shows just how international this place is.
It truly does. Just legendary names there, manufacturers that have had success here at the 12-hour of Sebring, and the fans just love. They love the access as well to the SRO paddock and all of the hospitality that are provided here on site. So different ways of whisking away around the circuit, trying to take advantage of all of the great viewing areas that the circuit has built into this facility.
And there are quite a few of them, that's for sure. It is a classic venue, opened up in 1950. The first race ever held was held here in December of 1950. A few years after that, it hosted the first ever U.S. Grand Prix. Since then, it's become best known for sports car racing. We're about to get these cars fired up, down to give the command to start engines from Manny Euro Auto down there in the front of the grid. Please welcome Manny Reyes for the command to start engines.
Drivers, start your engines.
Nice work, Manny. Right on cue. Everybody fires up those race engines, and we're about to go. 15 cars strong, the grid here this weekend. 3 different classes, Pro, Pro-Am, and Am, all running identical GT3 cars, and the three classes totally mixed up. This is the best example of it we've had all year long, with each class represented within the front half of the field. First through 8, we have Pro-Am, Pro, and Am all mixed together.
Yeah, really interesting mix. Scott Dollarhide, the Am Pulsar, did an amazing job, as he said. Kind of midway on the development of understanding that Ford Mustang, but certainly got a ton of potential. He's got a really strong teammate alongside him here this weekend who's had success over on the European stage, or the World Endurance Championship stage, should I say, in a similar car. So it'll be interesting to see how they compete here this weekend overall.
Cars starting to roll out onto the starting grid. You'll notice Jason Daskalos at the back of the pack. If you joined us for qualifying, you'll remember that that car actually qualified 4th in class, but they had an off late in the going that necessitated some repairs. Consequently, all laps that occurred before those repairs were wiped away, and that car now will start at the back of the pack, 15th for the CRP Racing Mercedes. A look at how the grid will line up for the first of 2 races. The Rover Pole Award goes to Philip Ellis for the 3rd time this year. Narrowly edged out Kenton Cook for the overall pole. Row 2 to Alex Sedgwick. He'll start alongside Mackay Stevens. They were separated by just hundredths of a second in qualifying. Great qualifying effort from Blake McDonald. Keep an eye on that DXTT Corvette. He'll have the veteran Bill Oberlin alongside in row number 3. Row 4 to Turner Motorsport and Justin Rothberg. That's the pole-sitting car for race 2 tomorrow. Then it's the M-Class car with Scott Dollarhide lining up in 8th. To row 5, Gray Newell for the Heart of Racing team set to roll off 9th. Jason Bell for the Floridian Racers Edge Motorsports squad. Todd Coleman starts 11th for Archangel Motorsports in their McLaren, while Kyle Washington is set to start at 12th. He's already been on track today, had a good run in GT America, as did Ross Schwest, competed in that race at least. He had a spin, looking to learn some lessons there. JF LeBert starts alongside, and at the back, it is Jason Daskalos after that penalty wiped away what was their best effort of the weekend. They were looking for pace after the testing and after practice. They seem to find it in qualifying. Unfortunately, they don't get to use that speed to set the grid because of the penalty.
Yeah, they've kind of had a history so far this year with being a struggle in Friday practice, but then coming good on Saturday and qualifying day. And what happened was at the very end of that qualifying session, Jason dropped a wheel over in turn 16, ended up cutting down a tire, had to bail out of it in turn 17, park the car. They got the car back to pit lane, then they fixed the car, and that raised his times up to that point. Meant his teammate Isaac Sherman could go back out with the repaired car and set a time for race 2 tomorrow. But I think in hindsight, if you'd sat down and thought about it a little bit, just sit still, don't repair the car, just sit on your qualifying times. They had a really good shot at a better grid position here today, of course.
No doubt about it, but the good news is the car is fast. They'll try to race their way forward in this 90-minute race. Onboard shot with Todd Coleman. Thanks to the Archangel team for letting us ride aboard here at Sebring International Raceway. Beautiful car. Aaron Thielitz, his co-driver, feeling pretty confident. That is Adrian Hottie from Bimmer's Speed. He'll get the honor of waving the green flag to start this race up in the flag stand along with our regular starter, Tom Hansing. Field coming around turn 17 for the final time before they get that green flag. On the pole position, Philip Ellis in a Pro-Am car. He'll need to scoot away to make his strategy work alongside his Kenton Cook for Random Vandals in the BMW. We wait for the green. There it is. We are racing. Oh, and we have a problem back in the pack. Gray Newell didn't get going. Might have been some contact, but everyone able to continue on. It's 3 wide, a little further back in the pack. Here comes a big move around the outside. That's Mackay Stevens in the Mercedes. He's challenging for second place, but the lead in his class.
That was pretty racy there by Mackay Stevens. Big risk around the outside. Kept it together. Kenton Cook kept it clean there. That's the green and white BMW sitting there in P2 overall and leading in the pro class.
Great move from Stevens to get around Sedgwick. They settle in single file. Relatively clean start outside of that strange situation where one lane about 2/3 the way back in the pack just didn't get going.
Rothberg, late move down to the inside. Tries to get alongside Blake McDonald there. Has to take evasive action as they accelerate off of turn 7. So Bill Oberlin got around Blake McDonald on the initial start. Now Rothberg is heaping the pressure on as well.
This is an important battle too, as Washington has gone for a spin. Damage at the back of his 911. It's a setback for a car that has been relatively quick with Tom Sargent driving in particular over the course of the weekend. But back to that Rothberg fight with McDonald. That's second and third in the Pro-Am class, but leaders on their strategy. And so that is an important battle to keep our eyes on.
Kai Stevens there almost got up to P2, but he did make a move there on that opening start. He'd qualified 4th overall behind Alex Sedgwick. There you see the 18 RS1, the red, white and black Porsche. They're going through turn 16. They've got a new engineer on board this weekend. They're pretty bullish about their prospects here moving forward.
JF LeBurge up 4 spots. Meanwhile, Jason Bell, I was about to say, has had a problem. That car is off the track and now needs to rejoin, dropping to the back of the 15-car field.
That's a shame because Jason had a really solid qualifying run here this morning. I'd say it's the best so far in GT3 competition for him. Local track for him based over in Tampa.
Here comes the field at speed for the first time. Philip Ellis the leader by 0.6 of a second. Kenton Cook, Mackay Stevens, Alex Sedgwick, and Bill Auberlen now. The top 5 overall. The 4 Pro class cars running nose to tail, 2nd through 5th.
Checked in with Bull Auberlen this afternoon after qualifying this morning. He said, we're just really struggling with the car. He said, as soon as I go to throttle, I'm picking up a big understeer. I'm going to have to change my way I drive my car. He said, you're a bit late in your career to start changing the way you drive a race car, but you know Billy's going to do whatever it takes to try and make this BMW work.
3-time 12 Hours of Sebring class winner, 1995, 1997, and 1998. It's been a little while, but it goes to show just how much experience he brings to the table. Got a really good start to make up some track position, and now is right on the tail of his closest competitor in class.
Yeah, he's trying to hang on to this pro battle here. I mean, they came out of the box so strong at Sonoma, had some technical issues in qualifying, stopped them from really getting good track position. They had enormous pace. Here's that move from Rothberg, kind of not quite far enough alongside. Blake McDonald swings across to the apex. Justin has to climb the apex and the curb a little bit to miss him.
Rothberg's already been a busy guy here today. Had a big day in GT America competition. Very nearly stole the win at the tail end of the race. Meanwhile, fight here. Stevens and Sedgwick side by side. Sedgwick trying to grab the spot back after having lost it on the first lap.
That was awesome piece of driving there. They go side by side again. Sedgwick's going to have the inside line for 16. Watch for Bill Auberlen here to make an attack from behind both of these cars. There he comes.
Here comes Auberlen now. The BMW InPower fully at his disposal. Gets a great run out of turn 16, trying to draw even. He does better than that. He's around the Mercedes. Now he pulls up alongside the Porsche as well. Here comes the veteran Bill Auberlen sweeping through to take second spot into Sunset Bend.
Oh, he dives into 17 with a lot of speed, picks up a little bit of understeer, back to power. I think he's got a grip in the tires to make that work. Beautiful stuff from Bill Auberlen there. 4th
to 2nd in the span of 2 corners for the veteran Bill Auberlen. Now he runs just behind his teammate, the class leader Kenton Cook. Sedgwick now runs 3rd, and Mackay Stevens, just like that, has been dropped down to 4th.
And that's our championship leaders. Very tight coming into this round. So far, they had a 3-point lead over the 99. And the 99 sits there in P2, so it's enough of a swing. Look at Kenton Cook there, bouncing through this little sector here. Sorry, that's Auberlen.
Yep, and it's left him vulnerable. Popped 2 wheels up in the air, and that's allowed Sedgwick to close in. Sedgwick had to check up, balked his momentum, and Stevens now counterattacking. He'll try the outside lane. Tough place to get it done in this bumpy braking zone for turn number 7. Mackay Stevens forced to settle back in.
Yeah, it's been some great dicing there between those two. We saw Auberlen take advantage along the Ullman straight to claim P2 in class. He's trying to settle back in here. I think he's still fighting the race car a little bit. Talking about that understeer from mid-corner out.
Sedgwick on the defensive now. Kai Stevens shuffled back 2 positions on the last lap, running in 4th.
It's like Blake McDonald has settled down and escaped Justin Rothberg's attention for a little while. Scott Dollarhite continues to run well after that strong qualifying performance this morning, leading in AM and running 8th overall.
Couple of reports coming in from Amanda Gray Newell. Remember, at the start of the race, it looked like he didn't get going, or reports of a false neutral for Gray Newell. There was some front-to-rear contact as well. Newell on the receiving end of that. Meanwhile, Jason Dascalos has come to the pit lane. Let's get an update from Amanda down in the pits.
Yeah, I'm happy to report it's not from qualifying earlier today. He was actually part of this start as well. Went into the back of Washington at the start of this race. Jason Dasklo's having a hard time keeping that hood down, putting some bear bond on to make sure that it stays sturdy before he gets back out.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage at the front of that Mercedes. It's been a magical first year for this team in GT World Challenge America. They've had some really strong runs, despite the fact this program came together super late, but this is a taste of misfortune for CRP Racing.
Yeah, we talk about the seasons that both of the drivers had last year. I think collective 19 wins between them. Isaac Sherman on his way to a championship, and Jason Dasklo's just come up a little bit shy with some contact, unfortunately for him, at the last round at Indianapolis. But up front, Ellis continues to lead overall and in Pro-Am. Kenton Cook has the lead in Pro. Aublin hanging tough there, about 2.5 seconds back of this leading duo.
He is. There was a pretty big gulf in qualifying between the two Random Vandals BMWs, but maybe it's that driving adjustment that you mentioned earlier, Calvin. Maybe it's a case of getting that car better in the setup window for Bill, but in any event, he's found some pace here and seems to be pulling away from Sedgwick and Stevens. Meanwhile, Kenton Cook not losing too much ground to Philip Ellis either in the battle for the overall lead of the race. Frantic first 7.5 minutes. This was the start. Keep an eye mid-pack, right-hand column. Look for the blue Aston not going, not keeping pace with the Turner BMW. That's how they all stack up. That's where the contact comes in. And it looks like to me that Jason Daskalo's got the worst of it.
Yeah, it's really difficult because there's a rule that you can't kind of poke your headlight out too far out of column. You certainly can't pass before the stripe. So Washington, you could see he didn't know what to do. You see the energy in the car. He wanted to figure out what to go, which way to go. And Daskalos, after a strong qualifying run, but they did that repair on the car. He started from the very tail end and obviously got caught up. I think it was a little bit deeper in the lap when the contact actually occurred with he and Washington. We saw Washington have that spin maybe down in turn 7.
Big thing for Daskalos and CRP is to get out on track, which he is now, shown on an outlap, and make sure they at least get to the halfway mark to be eligible to score points. 10 cars in the class here this weekend, which means as long as you get to the halfway point, you're guaranteed a single point, which is what's paid for 10th place. Of course, some more attrition would help them claw back a few additional points. Philip Ellis lead up nearly a second now over Kenton Cook.
What Philip Ellis needs is a green flag run here. Build that gap between he and the next Pro-Am car in the field and hand the car over to Jeff Burton with the best possible gap to work with for the rest of the race.
Chance now to take a look back again at some of the early action on the start. This is from turn 7, just outside the track. An eye out for Kyle Washington in the Porsche. Goes for a spin.
If the contact came a little bit earlier in the brake zone.
Hard to tell from what we saw, but it did cost him quite a bit of positions. Philip Ellis, though, doing what he needs to do out in front, building a gap. Kenton Cook had the fastest lap of the race the last time by. Ran a 2:02.7. Philip Ellis, the only other driver in the 2:02s on that last lap.
Yeah, Aublin, as you said, has kind of reduced the delta that he had with his teammate from qualifying, so he's only about 2 or 3 tenths off the pace of the leading Random Vandal machine, so they run 1-2 in class right now.
Ellis counters with the new fastest lap of the race. That is a 2:02.3.
That is pretty solid. That's a 4/10 margin over the rest of the field. Sedgwick just ran his best lap at a 2:02.7. Aublin a 2:02.8. Kenton Cook a 2:02.7. So Ellis is feeling it right now. He's got into his rhythm. Certainly wanted that clean air on the nose. That pole position overall was very important. He doesn't want to get mixed up in that pro class battle. Just wants clean air, clean racetrack, and just focus forward.
Ellis is quick no matter where he turns up, but he's got a knack for this place. He's a back-to-back and defending Sebring 12-hour class winner. Won it last year, won it again this year, and this is a tough race to win back-to-back.
It really is. He's had 4 wins already on North American soil this year, so he's got both of his championships after a really solid place, and that second win for he and Jeff Burton in the second round at Coda has really closed up that points gap in the Pro-Am standings. It now sits at just 6 digits between he and Burton compared to the championship leaders Rothberg and Robbie Foley.
On board now with Todd Coleman, sitting in 11th. Relatively quiet start to his race, which he'll take, I'm sure.
McLaren's worked really well here this weekend. We saw Aaron Thielitz and Todd Coleman and company at dinner last night, and they said, you know what, the Corvette seems to have a bit of an edge on us, but other than that, I think we're right in the mix. So at this stage in the Pro-Am combinations, you're just looking for your AM driver, which is Todd Coleman in this case, just to do a really solid job, no mistakes, try and keep it as tight as he possibly can, and let Aaron Thielitz go to work behind the wheel of this McLaren run by Archangel.
4-liter twin-turbo V8 power plant for the McLaren 720 GT3 Evo. This Evo kit came alive for the 2023 season, so this is the 3rd year of competition. Great platform, and interesting as well, talking with Todd Coleman about the level of assistance that they receive. Todd's run with several different manufacturers over the years, but he was raving about just how hands-on McLaren has been helping he and this team come to grips with the new car.
Yeah, I think they're certainly very pleased with that support that they've got from McLaren. I think moving forward, they got their eyes wide open in terms of any other manufacturers that they might consider running in future seasons. But I think right now this is a really good place for them. They got a little bit of GT3 running in various global championships over the off seasons to kind of dip their toe in the water. And I think Todd is in a very happy place with his driving, and he's got a great mentor and friend and coach at the same time. And Aaron Thielitz, they're a great match together.
Comes out of the Ferrari Challenge ranks, does Todd Coleman, race winner there with some regularity. Stepped into GT4 racing, did a little Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing as well in previous years. And focusing his efforts in 2025 right here on GT World Challenge America. He's been working with Aaron Thielitz for a fair few years now. It seems to be a really good partnership. The two of them have been working at a high level together now.
They have, and you know, some of that you just got to put weekends together and see if the chemistry's there. And you know, as Todd says, Aaron's a guy I want to go to dinner with, and if you've got that kind of connection, it typically then translates to being in the paddock together, being, you know, in the hauler, in the transporter for many hours on end, looking at data. You want to be someone that you're comfortable being around. You don't want to do a 20-minute debrief and then disappear and not see the sight of each other for the next 3 hours before the next session.
A peek now at Schwest Povolato Racing and owner-driver Ross Schwest making the switch to the Corvette platform for this season, having campaigned at Mercedes for a part-time schedule last year. Ross took part in the GT America race earlier today, which for a driver still very new to racing at the GT3 level feels like that's such a huge asset, and one of the things that makes GT America compelling for those that many of those that race there. It's just extra seat time and helps to jumpstart that learning experience. Meanwhile, Dolehite had his hands full. That was a big oversteer moment. Great save. He continues on running a strong 8th overall.
Yeah, hopefully that's not a precursor to the car kind of hitting that point in the tire life where it's starting to give him some handling imbalance. So hopefully it was just a single moment and he can kind of settle things back down again. But yeah, I think I agree with your GT America, you know, analogy in terms of the drivers who are competing in both. If you think about that, they're 40-minute sprint races. In a Pro-Am combination, you've got 50 minutes maximum drive time. You're typically going to give that to your pro driver. So that means that your stint's going to be about 40. So it's the perfect match. You know, you might have done a 40-minute race this morning, and that's pretty much going to match your stint here this afternoon.
Should be well prepared then for what the tires will feel like at the end of the stint.
allows you and the whole team to learn, particularly on a track and conditions as tricky as we have here this weekend at Sebring. Look at that heat haze coming down the Almond Straight.
My goodness, it is hot. Philip Ellis continues to lead. His gap over Kenton Cook now over 2 seconds. The last lap from Philip Ellis was a 2:01.976. Kenton Cook ran a 2:02.2. No one else is better than a 2:03 flat. These two are in a completely different zip code.
Yeah, they really are hooked up and both trying to basically gap their next car in class as far as they can before they hand it over to their teammates. To put it in perspective, the next Pro-Am entry is running in 6th overall. It's the number 11 DXDT Corvette racing machine with Blake McDonald behind the wheel. He's about 11 seconds back of Philip Ellis right now. Actually, just moved up to 12 seconds back after that lap across the stripe.
Now, again, if you're a regular viewer, you don't need to be reminded, but for those that have not been following the championship over the last season and a half, what Regulator Racing is doing with their driver lineup and how they elect to utilize it is different than the rest of the Pro-Am field here this weekend. A new rule last year was the teams could nominate driver 1 and driver 2. In the past, that had been dictated by FIA driver grading, but when that went away, regulators saw an opportunity to just try and be different than the rest of the field. They've rolled the dice really over the last year and a half by starting race 1 with their pro, Mercedes factory driver Philip Ellis. Crucial in race 1 for him to get good track position at the beginning and build a gap, because then when Jeff Burton climbs aboard, he'll be managing that gap to the rest of the cars in Pro-Am, which at that point will be putting in their pro drivers for the second stint.
Yeah, just looking as you look at the gaps there, I think the real interesting one to focus in on is the battle for second and third in Pro-Am between Blake McDonald and Justin Rothberg, because when you think about their driving partners, they were separated by about 3/10 in qualifying for race day 2. And so I think that's where potentially the battle for the win may come from if we don't see any yellow here this afternoon. Certainly Ellis is going to put Jeff Burton in the best possible position, but when you get Foley and Matt Bell on board, they've probably got enough time to maybe chase him down. So Rothberg's got to dig deep. He needs to try and stabilize that gap that's developing there between he and Blake McDonald. Otherwise, he's going to give his teammate Robbie Foley maybe a little bit too much work to do.
New fastest lap of the race to Philip Ellis in 2:01.907. Kenton Cook came very close to breaching the 2:02 barrier. Came in at a 2:02.034. We're on board with Kenton now, running second overall, but leading in the pro class.
Yeah, and he's built up about a 5.5 second lead over his teammate, Bill Auberman, who runs second in class, third overall. Auberman is certainly keeping Sedgwick at bay, sits about 7/10 back, and Stevens has dropped off a little bit. That's our championship leading team right now, running fourth in class. It's hard to make a big break in the points. I mean, getting to 50% in every race is obviously a key with only 4 cars in that pro class, but the big margin is between first and second. When you get to second to third and third to fourth, they're minuscule margins, 3 and 2 points respectively. So getting the wins is what really makes a difference in that championship.
This team needs to get through a weekend with no dramas. If you recall back in Sonoma, they had a mechanical issue for the other car in qualifying that meant that they had to start at the back in both of those races. They had a penalty that effectively did the same to them in qualifying for this car at Circuit of the Americas. So far, so good. It's been a relatively quiet weekend from that perspective for the team, and now they run 1-2 in pro. This is undoubtedly what this team is capable of. We've just been waiting to see them put it all together.
Yeah, it's a big ask when you step up to running 2 cars full time. You're bringing new people on board to be able to do that. They've still got a very big GT4 program running 3 cars over in Pirelli GT4. So they had to bolster the squad. And just getting everyone aligned and everyone on the same page, I think it's just the execution of the races has kind of not been their strong point so far, but they've got some great people, some really talented people, and Paul Sparta's got the passion to to go about racing in the right way, and I think they are going to straighten things out and start to click a little bit more. But they've certainly got pace in their race car, as being demonstrated by Kenton right now.
Here is Scott Dolehite, only M-Class car injured here this weekend. Fremont, California native, doing a great job. Qualified 8th, runs 8th. Sprinkled right there amongst the rest of the bronze-graded drivers in the Pro-Am lineups. And this is a new program, of course, for the team. They ran a different brand in the partial schedule last year, elected to go the Mustang route. First Mustang we've seen in GT World Challenge America. Popular car trackside because it looks and sounds like a Mustang should.
Yeah, it really does. Had Anthony Lazaro alongside Scott for the first 4 rounds of the championship. His history goes back a long time, actually raced alongside Scott's dad, Bill Dolehite, back in the late 90s, I think it was, with a Ferrari 333 prototype machine. And Anthony's still regarded as one of the top AM drivers that's available to these teams that look to really stack the deck a little bit, but they felt, you know what, maybe we'll look a little bit further afield with someone who's actually got experience with this platform and can help us with the development curve a little bit further, and they've done that this weekend with drafting in the Italian driver.
Yep, Stefano Gattuso gets the call up. 1 week ago, he was racing, a week ago today, in fact, was racing at Spa-Francorchamps in the WEC race there, finished second in the GT category, LMGT3 as it's known in that series, but cars based off of the SRO GT3 platform. Great asset to bring into the mix. He's got good pace and experience with the car as well. Right now, though, we've got a Ford and Chevy battle brewing because Ross Schwest has caught Scott Dolehite. Keep an eye here on Gray Newell. Good to see that car is all right. Remember, we had the stack up at the start. Gray reported some rear end contact. Seems like he's been able to recover okay.
Yeah, some kind of transmission issue went into a false neutral, we believe, which is why he couldn't accelerate, and everyone else wasn't quite sure what to do. There's a very strict regulation in terms of jumping out of line before the start-finish stripe, so it caused that concertina effect. Meanwhile, battle for P2 intensifies. Alex Sedgwick, the Brit, has really clawed right back onto the tail of this BMW of Bill Oberlin. Kai Stevens is fading a little bit. I think that's maybe the biggest surprise of the weekend, that the JMF racing machine is struggling a little bit comparative to how they've run in the first 4 events this year.
That said, Mackay just did his best lap of the race the last time by at a 2:02.8. Even still, though, that's a few tenths off of what these two are doing. Sedgwick's best lap, a 2:02.5. Oberlin's a 2:02.6. That also came on the last lap. And I take that back. Sedgwick's best was at 2:02.3 a few laps ago.
Earliest point in this race that you could pit and switch drivers with a 50-minute maximum drive time would be at 51 minutes and 19 seconds to go, as you have to be on pit lane for a minimum of 79 seconds. You're allowed up to a 2-second buffer on that, but anything that you're underneath that margin gets multiplied by 10 and added to your race time. So you don't want to be too far out of that. We saw it affect the result there at Coda for one of the races for the JMF squad.
Definitely has the potential to be extremely costly, as we saw.
Yeah, just a couple of tenths is suddenly 2 seconds, and I think they were, what, 0.17 or something shy of the minimum, and it cost them 1.7 at the end of the race, and that was enough to switch the positions.
Ford versus Chevy, Corvette versus Mustang. Schwest to the inside of Dolehite. LeBurge will try and follow him through. That's the bright red Porsche you see diving for the apex. Dolehite all of a sudden starting to struggle a bit, and that's brought him into this pack of Pro-Am cars. But Coleman dipping and diving, looking for a way by as well in the orange McLaren.
Yeah, really nice job there by JF reading that situation. Dolehite was kind of boxed out, and he looks like he's vulnerable right now. He's backpedaling big time. Coleman gets the run down the front straightaway, and here comes Gray Newell. Looks like Dolehite's going to drop about 4 positions in the space of a lap.
Well, if things aren't quite right, this is another class that's coming through, so perhaps it is prudent to bail out and make sure you don't interrupt somebody else's race. LeBurge is looking extremely strong here. He had a couple of spins in one of the practice sessions within about 5 minutes of each other. But that's well and truly in the rearview mirror now. Keep an eye on him. He was the big mover on the first lap, gained 4 spots.
Doing a great job. He's really having a solid run. The car's been quick here this weekend. Actually led the practice sessions here on Thursday with Carl Marcelli, his teammate, on board. So great job by JF.
Definitely. And now he's putting pressure on Ross Schwest for 8th overall. As you can see, our big movers are Schwest and LeBurge. Rebounding from disappointing qualifying efforts, but looking strong here in the heat of the day.
Yeah. These last 10 minutes or so is going to be when the drivers are really probably starting to struggle with the tires a little bit more than they were earlier. So it's really how much abuse you gave them during those opening laps can maybe transition over to a struggle here at the end.
Ellis just continues to set him up and knock him down. He did another 202 flat. His lap before that had been a 201.9. Kenton Cook on that last lap did a 203.1, so he lost a second to the race leader, Philip Ellis.
Yeah, Ellis, this late in the stint is only a 10th of his best of the day. That is crazy. So the cars get lighter, so a lighter race car is obviously going to be quicker. You're not pushing as much mass or slowing down as much mass, but typically that is more than compensated for by the tires going away. So hats off to Regulator Racing with the setup on this car and the driver's skills and management of Philip Ellis to be able to maintain pace like this.
Yeah, this is exactly what the strategy entails for Philip Ellis. Step number 1, get the overall pole. Step number 2, consolidate that lead at the start. Step 3, build a gap and hope nothing condenses that gap. This is exactly what they need to get a strong result here on race 1.
Yeah, he's got about a 22-second lead over the next Pro-Am car, and so far into this race he's done about 13 laps. That's 30 minutes in, so it probably means that Jeff Burton's going to do about 16 laps or so. So if he can build this up to about 30 seconds plus, that would give Jeff Burton approximately about a 2-second per lap delta that he's got to work with. He can't be a lot more than that, obviously, to be in the game for the win.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. Give Jeff Burton something to work with. Here comes Ellis. See what he can do on this, his 13th lap. That was a 202.4, so a little bit slower than he had been running. Now we wait for the next car in the class. Here come the Pro Class cars. Kenton Cook comes through, 2nd overall. Bill Oberlin now with a little gap back to Alex Sedgwick, 3rd and 4th overall. Then it's Mackay Stevens. Amanda reporting nothing amiss with the car. Just down on pace relative to the rest of the class. And here comes the 2nd place car in Pro-Am, but the leaders on their strategy. Blake McDonald, some 22 seconds back, now 24 after that last lap. And Blake doing what he needs to do just to stay as close as possible. Set the table for Matt Bell to go on to charge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be wild because for Jeff Burton, he gets put in this situation where he's really racing against the clock. You know, he's not in a big battle. He's just trying to hang on to that lead. Just really be disciplined, knock out the lap times, listen to the team and the box in terms of what sort of pace he has to run to maintain that gap. But Philip Ellis looks so strong up front. Amanda, what are you hearing from the team?
Yeah, I was talking to them about their tire situation. You'll go back to qualifying. They keep the scrub set from Philip Ellis's qualifying on the car for Jeff to race or to qualify in. Philip Ellis did start this race on a sticker set. In talking to the team, they have scrubbed the rest of the tires for the weekend for when Jeff will go out. When we look at the tire deck this weekend, is there any benefit to the qualifying strategy as well?
I think so. It gives them one more set to work with for the 2 races, Amanda. So what they like to do is let Philip Ellis qualify. There's a short break, keep those tires on with a little bit of tire temp, and that allows Jeff Burton to go out and start his qualifying run with some tire temperature already built. So we've lost the ability to use tire warmers for this 2025 championship season. But the added benefit, of course, is you have that extra set of stickers sitting there. So certainly it seems like it's worked out nicely here for their strategy.
Another 2:01.9 from Philip Ellis.
Wow.
Only 0.08 of a second off of the best lap of the race, and it comes over 30 minutes into this stint. Remarkable.
Yeah, he's going to stay out there, though. Let's not forget, 50 minutes is the maximum drive time, so he's going to be out there to maximize that all the way through. And when you're doing this job, you have just got your fingers crossed there's not a yellow and a full course yellow where the safety car is out, and suddenly it erases all that good work that you've done.
So as we've talked about, you've given the earliest a car can come into the pit lane, 51 minutes, 19 seconds to go. What is the furthest anyone can go? That's limited by the max drive time,
Yeah,
right?
40. So basically there can't be less than 40 on the clock when he hits pit lane.
Expect Philip Ellis to take advantage of as much of that as is possible.
Looks so smooth. I mean, he is literally a machine in this car. He's just so comfortable in it, got so much experience, runs in multiple championships.
And you might wonder, why do they do this when everyone else is committed to the other strategy? And especially in race one, where a yellow can really have this race come undone. But you have to look at what Jeff Burton had been able to do in his career up until last year, where he had a handful of podiums across multiple seasons of competition. All of a sudden, they try something different last year. They finished third in points. They had 7 podium finishes and 2 wins. Already this year, 2 wins, and they're in the championship conversation. This is the perfect lineup with the right delta between the drivers and then the right mentality of the drivers to try and do something different than the rest of the field.
It is. It's harder to make happen in race one. In race two, if there's a yellow, it really helps them out, because with Jeff Burton starting race two, if there's a yellow, if he's a little bit behind, it compresses the field. If Philip Ellis gets in the car and then there's a yellow, compresses the field. So they've had their 2 victories in race two, the way things have worked out, and that's how it's going to work out, because basically if a green flag race, and if you have Philip Ellis and another pro in a Pro-Am lineup that may be a 10th or 2 off, yet Jeff Burton may be half a second off another AM, the math works out, you're not going to win. But if you have a yellow in race two, that's where this strategy really comes into play. It's on Sundays where it's really going to have a good chance of getting them to victory lane.
We've seen a few other Pro-Am teams try it here and there. Are you surprised no one else has committed to it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's worth rolling the dice. I mean, really, we're talking about a pro lineup here with Varun Choksi and Bill Auberlin. They're pretty evenly matched. Varun's a really talented young driver. Bill's got the experience level. But they've elected to do that. So, again, it would be race two where that strategy may come into play, where Bill's the finishing driver. And if there is a yellow, you know, it puts them in great shape as well. So, yeah, I'm surprised there's not been another couple of teams try it, at least.
56 minutes still to go, race one of the weekend. Lurking there in the background, but getting a little bit closer with each passing lap is Mackay Stevens. They dropped off the pace about 15 minutes ago, but the last few laps, Stevens has been quicker than these two and has been reeling them in.
Yeah, he just laid down his fastest lap of the race. So maybe JMF just set this car up for the long green flag run that they're anticipating here. Obviously, with the pro lineups, you've got a bit more flexibility in terms of what you do in terms of carving up the cake. You could do 2 45-minute stints, minus the time on pit lane, of course. If the car's feeling good, keep your first driver out. If you're struggling a bit for balance, get the first driver in and get that second set of Pirelli P0s on and let driver B, or the second driver, go to work.
Stevens from the Chicago area. It's been a fixture with JMF Motorsports since he debuted with them in 2022. I would suggest he has the best CV of anyone in the SRO America paddocks without a championship over the past few years. He's been runner-up on a couple of occasions in Pirelli GT4 America, but has been close, but not quite been there for the title.
No, it's a shame that they haven't got that first championship for he and the team, but he's so talented. I mean, just got great racecraft, Mackay Stevens. I'm a big believer in his abilities. There we saw Darren Turner. He returns to Sebring. He's had a number of outings here. I think it's 9 over the years with 7 podiums. Had a win at the 12-hour in class 2005. So yeah, that was in an Aston Martin as well. So all the stars are aligned possibly for a strong one here today and another podium. But they've got a bit of work to do. They seem to have been a bit on the back foot here this weekend. Gray Newell currently running in 7th in class.
Darren was runner-up the last time he raced at Sebring. That was the 2020 Sebring 12-hour. That year it was held in September or October or something. That was the COVID year. It was very strange time of year to have that event. It ended up, was that the championship finale?
Jan Halen won that year.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Darren's past success. 9 previous starts, 7 podiums at this racetrack. First race here was 2003 in the Gold American Le Mans Series. Says this is one of his top 3 favorite tracks in the world.
Yeah.
And this is one that will split opinions of people. Some people absolutely love this place, like Darren Turner, and others somewhat less so. You don't find anyone who's kind of right in the middle on Sebring.
No, typically the ones who hate it say they need to repave this place, and all the traditionalists just say, no, they'll scream up and down, you got to leave it as is. That's the character of this place. They can't change it. Leave the bumps as they are. That's what it's all about, trying to make these race cars handle better. And I'll tell you what, the suspension system has become so advanced over the years. If you took shots of cars trying to leap through turn 17 20 years ago compared to today, it's night and day difference. I mean, there used to be literally feet in the air, let alone a couple of inches.
And the bumps haven't gotten any better.
No.
So that shows just how
just
far...
the damping programs, yes.
Exactly, that the technology has, that the cars have. This is why this is one of the great proving grounds anywhere in the world in motorsports. People for years have taken cars here to try and break them, to find the weak spots in preparation for homologation or competition in a big race.
Yeah, Audi Sport and Team Yost were good. They'd go globally to different tracks. They'd go over to South Africa to go try and get their cars to work in heat. But they'd come here and just try and break the race car. Basically, just keep pounding around trying to break the race car, because any track will do it. This is it. Darren Turner gets ready.
We're about a minute or so away from the pit window opening. Matt Bell is standing by, getting ready to climb aboard this car that leads on its strategy, Amanda.
Absolutely. That Corvette's going to make a dive into the pit lane as soon as they can. Nice little wave there from Matt Bell. I was talking to him ahead of this stint that he's about to take. It was about 35 seconds from him to that Mercedes. He gets to kind of eat into it with Philip Ellis still on the track. We know Philip will come in late into this pit stop change. But for Matt, I talked to him about the Corvette. Blake's been reporting that it feels excellent. Very happy with this car. I said, well, how do you feel about that gap to Regulator Racing? He said, well, I put my fast boots on today. So Matt Bell ready for the challenge, guys.
I'm sure he is. And I'll tell you what, Blake McDonald's done a really good job to only lose 37 seconds to a world-class driver like Philip Ellis in your stint. That is a really remarkable drive for a guy who's pretty light on experience at the GT3 level.
Yeah, and if you think about it, with essentially Jeff Burton will go out with about 40 minutes to go, or maybe a little bit shy of that. And, if Matt Bell can go out and stabilize that gap, not let it get any bigger while Philip Ellis is doing his thing at the front of the pack, basically means that he's got to catch him up by about 2 seconds a lap as Blake McDonald hits pit lane. It's not always the leader who has that first opportunity to pit. It really just depends on the track positioning as to when that moment hits in the race. 51 minutes and 16 seconds was the earliest, where you can then spend your 76 seconds on pit lane. And then when the second driver exits pit lane, there's 50 minutes or less left on the clock.
Well, within that window, just about everybody in the Pro-Am class, barring Philip Ellis, will get this opportunity if they want to take it. Most of them will. Tires going on. Here comes that crucial driver exchange as well. Out after a nice piece of work is Blake McDonald, and he'll help Matt Bell get situated. Florida's already been pretty good to Matt Bell this year. He won the 24 Hours of Daytona back in January.
Yeah, it has, and he's really developed a great mentorship and friendship here with Blake McDonald. They got big plans moving forward. They'd love to compete at some of the big 24-hour races on the global stage. And DXDT are really doing a fine job with this car. Obviously, got their arms around it quickly last year when they debuted the car in SRO competition, when 8 wins on the bounce for Alec Udell and Tommy Milner in the pro class.
That was good execution from DXDT. We'll wait for the time when he trips pit exit in just a moment.
1 second outside, so 79 seconds is the minimum. He is at 79.9. So 9/10 outside the minimum, so really nice clean pit stop for DXDT. Sedgwick, however, is starting to put the pressure on Aublin. Aublin's one of those cars that may elect to pit a little bit earlier than the 2 cars that are chasing him, but Bill's got pretty good pace. But if he suddenly feels that the tires are dropping off a little bit and he's losing anything, he may elect to do the undercut and get some fresh probably P0s and see what his young teammate can do.
That also might help him avoid some of this traffic. Cars that are just fresh out of the pits. No tire warmers this year either, so there's going to be a major pace delta for at least a half a lap or so. If you catch this traffic at the wrong time, that can really hold you up. Stevens has closed in even further on this pairing. That's Aaron Povoleto just ahead in a car that has already taken its pit stop. And we should also note that Philip Ellis continues to lay down fast laps. His last lap was the new fastest lap of the race at a 2:01.8. So
Incredible.
He continues to go fast while others were sitting stationary in the pits.
Well, if he can continue to gap Matt Bell, that's the important thing that we're thinking about. That battle for the Pro-Am lead may come down to the number 11. Certainly the Turner Motorsports 29 machine is in the mix as well, but I think that's going to be what we're looking for. As Rothberg hits pit lane lap later than the 11 car, just dependent. That was dependent, I think, on track position. No, they could have come with the 11 car. They could have come a lap earlier here, so I'm not sure why they elected to wait.
Saw the brake dust come pouring out. Several big braking zones around this track. Robbie Foley getting installed. He had the pole setting lap from qualifying 2 earlier today. This car will start at the overall pole position tomorrow.
Yeah, he was a monster in qualifying. He was 3/10 quicker than Matt Bell, so there's potential if he can kind of cut and paste that pace of the race car into these race conditions to go chase down that number 11 machine. The other thing we've got to factor in here is you see him release from his box as Matt Bell comes down the front straightaway, is that Robbie Foley now runs with 26 kilograms of extra weight. That's because Justin Rothberg, his teammate, is a derogated, should I put that, bronze driver, and there's a new rule in place. If they feel you're a little out of the box in terms of performance, they'll add weight. They carried 13 kilos at Circuit of the Americas. That's been up to 26 kilograms, which translates to almost 60 pounds. And that is a lot of weight for a pro driver to be carrying when he's going hard against another pro driver.
From second on the road, Kenton Cook has come in. Set to turn it over to Connor DeFilippi, BMW factory driver. That promotes Oberlin up to second, at least temporarily. Stevens up to third. 1 pit stop to circle. The JF LeBurge to Kyle Marcelli stop was just fractionally under the minimum. They will have a time penalty coming their way.
Yeah, just shy of a 10th, so I think they'll have about 9/10 added to their time at the end of the race. So Kenton Cook, thumbs up. Sedgwick is in, turn it over to Jan Halen. And typically the undercut really doesn't work when you don't have tire warmers, because if you're trying to maintain track position, that second driver is going to struggle for a lap or two. But with the heat we're having here at Sebring, it shouldn't take more than 4 or 5 corners to get some energy into these Pirelli P0s. And so the second driver, it's almost like the track gives you tire warmers with the track temperature here this weekend.
Philip Ellis, on the other hand, doing the ultimate overcut. Purple first sector, personal best middle sector. Just continues to lower the bar as he stays out on track and will do so as deep into this race as he can, trying to maximize the advantage. He will hand over to Jeff Burton for the second half of the race.
So consistent. I mean, his fastest lap is a 2:01.8. I bet he's had 6 or 7 laps underneath the 2:02 bracket here this afternoon. Just incredible. And it's late in the going as well. Yes, we said the car's lighter, the fuel load burns away, but for these tires, just amazing job by Pirelli providing the teams with a tire that will do this. And then certainly great setup for regulator and great performance by the driver.
Ellis, a 2:01.7, new fastest lap of the race the last time by. Unbelievable.
He's got a couple more laps he can stay out there. Needs to be 40 minutes plus on the clock before he comes into pit lane.
Moments ago, This was...
Oh, it's Mikel Grenier trying to get some tire temperature in there and just gets a little bit squirrely there through 16.
Yeah, I think you're right. Grenier on the outlap there. Little twitch, maybe more than a little one. Well held, and he'll continue on.
De Filippi we're looking at here, so random battles. Kind of split in the difference in terms of mid part of that kind of window, as we call it, approximately a 10-minute period that you can come into pit lane. It's not exactly that, depending on when you hit pit lane, some of the early runners.
You know what, that might have been actually Stevens on an in lap, because he's shown as in the pits now. So Stevens has pitted. That means only the top two are yet to pit, Ellis and Oberlin.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely, he is on pit lane. So that was Stevens towards the end of his stint. I thought that JMF had been on pit lane.
Had all the makings of it, for
It
sure.
was the only pro car that hadn't. Oh, no, Oberlin's still out there as well.
Correct. Decent execution. No, I take that back, actually. That was slow for JMF. Minute 19 is the minimum. They were at a minute 23.
Oof, that's 4.3 seconds outside.
They're not the only ones that are in that ballpark. Slow stop as well for Heart of Racing. They were in the 124 range. We had a 137 stop for the Dollarhide team, so way over the minimum.
And normally you see teams at this stage of the season, first couple of rounds, everyone's just trying to get into their groove, but by the time you get to the third weekend of the year and the fifth race, certainly you hope to tighten up some of these margins.
This is not a battle for position, by the way. That's the waylaid CRP Mercedes of Isaac Sherman. And several laps down and damaged, as you could see. That was from the very start of the race when Gray Newell had a false neutral coming to the green flag that bunched everyone together and caused some major collisions throughout the pack. Looked like that 27 got the worst of it. Meantime, here comes Oberlin now into the pits. They'll do their tire change and refuel, plus the driver change too, as Varun Choksi is set to climb aboard.
Great stint there by Bill Oberlin. All of the fitness he's done. He's a gym rat. He's super fit at 56 years old. Still gets the job done. Leaps out of the car like a 17-year-old. Turns it over to his young teammate. Thumbs up. He'll be pretty happy that. I'm sure he's frustrated that he doesn't still have quite the ultimate pace of the sister machine, but really solid run. Great racecraft there, taking advantage of that little racing moment between Sedgwick and Mackay Stevens.
But with good execution here in the pit lane, should be able to set up his teammate with good track position. Here comes the RS1 car. That will be the race. It's now Jan Halen driving after Sedgwick started it. And indeed, Halen does come through.
Yeah, I think the key there is that these drivers are able to get these tires up to temperature almost immediately. So for Jan Halen, he goes out on fresh Pirelli P0s versus Bill Oberlin on nearly 50 minutes old tires. So seems like the undercut is working here just because the temperature is generated almost immediately when you leave pit lane.
And you're right, next to nothing between the two of them in terms of the pit stop. Here comes Philip Ellis, who is running high 201s, low 202s. Some of these pros now with fresh Pirelli P0s are already in the mid to low 201s. Aaron Tewitt set the fastest lap of the race a few moments ago, I believe, in the McLaren. So there was some pace drop-off, it would appear. Ellis managed it fairly well. Now he hands it over to Jeff Burton, who will once again inherit the overall lead, a position he's been in multiple times this year. I think, in fact, every race won so far this year, he has spent time as the overall leader.
Real key is, you know, for him, even though it's very toasty, he's just getting through that opening lap there without any mistakes. Keep it nice and clean, then just find a rhythm, find a pace you're comfortable with, hit your marks, and then just listen to the team. It's all about time for him. He's not going to be in a battle track position-wise with the other Pro-Am cars. He's just got to deliver consistent laps.
Regulator Racing sends their car, now with Jeff Burton aboard. Last car to make the pit stop. The only thing left to see is how well they executed in the pit lane. 79 seconds is the minimum. It's a 79.7, so great execution from the team. Now it's Jeff Burton's job to bring this thing home.
Here we go. He accelerates away. Just got to tiptoe a little bit through these first couple of corners. And you'll start to feel the grip. You'll start to get the confidence back. This is a key one. This was turn 5. Just leaning on the power, keeping it clean. Here we go.
Jeff Burton starting to push on his outlap. Under 40 minutes to go in race 1. Down to the pit lane in Amanda.
Yeah, I just want to do a quick ad for you guys on the JMF Mercedes. I was talking to Mackay Stevens after his stint, and he said that taking a lot of credit for the first half of the race, said that he felt like he was just a little overstimulated. He was overdriver, underdriving, then missed a strategy call from the team. There were reports back to the team that Michael Grenier is feeling a little bit of a toe issue in the Mercedes, but Mackay didn't want to take any excuses. He's taken a lot of heat on himself for the first half, but I also want to talk about the heat down here. Every driver that was in the first stint, all of them are covered in sweat. Their faces are red. We have cold towels going on the back of their necks, so it is brutal down here, guys.
Yeah, that's a long stint. You know, even though you spend hours literally every day preparing for an event like this. You do the off-season training, then you know you're coming to Sebring in May. You need to ramp it up once again. Ambient temperature right now, 94 degrees, and the real feel up over 100. Just incredible conditions to try and fight through.
That'll sap the energy from you quickly, won't it? And it's already hot in these race cars to begin with. When you add in the high ambient temperatures, you added the humidity. I mean, how hot do you think it is inside these cars right now?
Oh, it can be brutal. I mean, if you were to put a temperature reading on, say, like the brake pedal or something like that, something to be 150, 160 degrees, got all that heat still coming up through particularly the front engine cars, where it just eats through that firewall and gets up through the pedals and just burns your feet. So there's a lot of insulation and things that they can do to try and protect the drivers against that. And certainly technology has moved on. The cars are using a lot better materials to try and protect the drivers a little bit, but it is still brutally hard.
Jeff Burton got on it pretty quickly. His sector times, Sector 2, Sector 3, not bad. Not bad at all for an outlap. We'll have a better picture of it once he comes around to complete this lap. But his lead over Matt Bell is pretty significant. Bell is 36, that's not right. Hang on a second. 36, 37 seconds, something like that is the gap between the leader in Pro-Am to second place in Pro-Am. But again, on opposite sides of that strategy coin.
Yeah, and you're looking at about 18 laps left in this race, so we'll get the math there as Matt Bell does cross the line. It's at 37 seconds, so providing Jeff Burton doesn't lose more than 2 seconds per lap, he'll have the win. If it's more than 2 seconds a lap on average, he will not. Going to be a big ask. Once he gets in a rhythm, I would say one more lap and we'll get a true indicator what sort of pace he's got here today in race conditions. I think it was about that number in qualifying this morning, so there's potential here for Regulator Racing to hang on and maybe score a rare race 1 victory.
And you know, often we talk about it in race 1, it's not necessarily just about going and getting the win. Even a podium is a good result, and this is the next group in that class. They're 50 seconds behind Jeff Burton right now. That would be very difficult for Foley and Tewitt, as fast as they are, and these are two of the fastest cars on track right now. Given the gap that they have, without a yellow, it would be difficult for them to overhaul him. So Jeff Burton, if it stays green, could be in line for, at the very least, a top 3 finish. Yeah,
and if they finish in front of Foley, that means they're going to eat into that championship lead, which is only 6 points. So if it was second to third, that would be 3 points off that margin. But a win would be huge. A win here today would guarantee them the championship lead heading in tomorrow. This is important for Robbie Foley as well. You know, we've seen his pace here today in qualifying this morning, but he cannot afford to lose any more positions. Right now he's on for another podium run, but Aaron Thielens has displayed great pace aboard this McLaren here this weekend. And he sits only about a second and a half back of Foley that you can see from the onboard there, just up ahead as they head down the Ullman straight into turn 17.
Aaron Tewitt's hustling his McLaren, picking up that throttle nice and early to get the run. Meanwhile, front of the field, Jeff Burton leading overall. The Pro Class leader, though, is Connor DeFilippi. Kenton Cook got them off to a really strong start, and he is reeling in Burton for that overall lead of the race.
Guess what? The gap between Burton's lap time and Matt Bell, the last lap, was right at 2 seconds. And the gap is at 34 seconds with maybe 17 laps to go. You can do the math. It's going to be really close.
Really
the
close.
real key is for Burton to just be consistent. You know, manage some of these cars that are going to pass him. Don't lose time. Try and learn something from them. Try and hang on to them a little bit. See if you can find a couple of tenths, but don't take any risks. Just be monotonous with those lap times, and the victory may still come your way. Because Bella's got to fight through some traffic as well to get to him.
Connor DeFilippi will not want to lose any time getting by Jeff Burton either, because Jan Halen just did the best lap of the race at a 2:01 flat. That's 9 tenths quicker than this BMW went the last time by. Smooth as Belgian chocolate, is that what you said in the track preview?
I think you may melt the Belgian chocolate in these conditions, but nonetheless, yeah, he was pretty pumped up this weekend when we chatted during the track preview. He said, we've got a new engineer on board. We've really been running a little bit blind this year in terms of the resources aren't at the highest level to run that car at the moment, but they're there and they're trying to dig deep and be creative with how they get some budget on the table to continue running this program. I think they've now been confident that they can run the full season, but now they've been able to find a way to get a top-class engineer on board, and he said it's really starting to make a difference, and it's showing here in race.
Got another 6 tenths on Connor DeFilippi on that last lap. Did Jan Halen. He is closing in. He has to overcome a 6.4 second deficit. This is bad timing here for DeFilippi, catching Jeff Burton in the brake zone for 7. Now he needs to get a good run out of here. Try and make the pass down at turn 10.
Yeah, when you think about that, there's 16 laps to go, so he probably needs about, what, 3 to 4 tenths a lap, does Jan Halen, to catch Connor DeFilippi. So you're right. I mean, Connor's just got to execute a nice clean pass here. Don't take any risks. Don't throw the win away. You know that Jeff Burton is not going to just open the door for him. You see Jeff there. Oh, that was tight. That's a moment where you really need to just back off and really think about the exit here. So this is costing Connor DeFilippi a little bit of time.
Oh, it cost him a second exactly in Sector 1 alone. Cost him another couple of tenths in the middle sector. Here he comes to the inside, and Connor DeFilippi takes the overall lead of the race away from Jeff Burton. Connor lost quite a bit of time. I don't think Jeff lost all that much, actually. That was pretty well managed from Jeff Burton, and that's the name of the game for him here for the final 31 minutes.
Yeah, last lap around the track, he lost 2.5 seconds to Matt Bell. That's a bit outside the margin that he's got to work with, so the team is going to be on him for that. They would have given that message immediately. Okay, Jeff, you need to find 3 or 4 tenths, and he's got that traffic. He didn't want to just slow down and lose a second and let Connor DeFilippi by. I think that's why he fought him a little bit longer. And Halen there going around the 50 machine. Aaron Povolato, not a battle for position.
That car has made 2 pit stops, and I don't know why. Maybe we could get to the bottom of that with Amanda. Ah, pit speed violation. That'll do it.
Yeah, and Halen working hard here. He's had 4 SRO victories over the years here at Sebring. Also one here in IMSA competition back in 2020 at the end of that year, I believe.
Correct. Exactly right.
He is really still on top of his game, just very much in his mid-40s now, but he can still drive one of these race cars to the top level. He can match factory pilots when he's put in an entry alongside. Just amazing talent. One of those drivers who almost broke through in the single-seater ranks, had tremendous success in his early years, won at the time, the very prestigious Formula Ford Festival back in the early 2000s, which back then, if you won that, that was really a keen indicator as what sort of talent you had. But look at this, Tielitz has caught Robbie Foley a little bit. Foley cannot afford to lose this position. He's got to at least finish on the podium here.
Tielitz, another one that raced in that Formula Ford Festival, part of the Team USA scholarship set up by Jeremy Shaw. That was all the way back in 2014, if you can believe it. He still seems like this fresh-faced kid, but he's been at this game for a while. Champion of what was then known as Pro Mazda, now USF Pro 2000 back in 2016, and looked like he was destined for a career in Indy cars. Never quite made it to that level, but has transitioned nicely to sports cars. Multiple programs around the world for Aaron Telitz in the last few years, including here in SRO as well as Asian Le Mans and elsewhere.
Yeah, he's a really fine young driver, really nice young man as well. And it's all about building relationships. He's got this opportunity with Todd Coleman to kind of coach him and mentor him, and that gives him some more racing opportunities for himself. Jimmy Vasser is a huge fan of his, obviously had him in his race cars for a number of years alongside Sully Sullivan as well.
Jan Halen has caught Jeff Burton and will make quick work of him. Two cars, two different classes, two very different agendas at this stage in the race. Halen is through, now 4 seconds behind Connor DeFilippi for the overall lead.
Just trying to focus here, and the gap between Burton and Matt Bell is now 26 seconds. And we have approximately 14 laps to go. So again, at that 2 seconds a lap, it's going to be tight.
Yep.
It could come down to the last couple of laps, nip and tuck, whether Matt Bell catches him or not.
Bell is pushing. He knows what the agenda is. Just did his best first sector just a few seconds ago.
I like the fact it's basically a 2-minute lap here. It makes the math a lot easier today.
I usually leave the math up to you anyway, but here I think even I can help out. Bell doing exactly what he's been brought in here to do with DXDT.
This car really works well. Just an amazing race car. DXDT now have enormous amount of time with the car. As we talked about last year, debuted at sort of mid-third event of the year and immediately put it in victory lane. 8 wins on the bounce. They also run it in another series as well, so that's just building their notebook all of the time.
Overall leader in the pro class, Connor DeFilippi. His co-driver, Kenton Cook, is with Amanda.
Yeah, and we just saw the BMW and the Porsche go by here on the front stretches. Jan Halen tries to track down your BMW, but you said it was a handful out there. What were you battling?
I mean, just battling both ends, really, when it came down to it. It was quite hot, and I don't know if it was just the previous race that was out there made getting up to speed just tricky with the grip that we had. So it was fun. Yeah, I think Connor's on it, and we'll see how we do. But yeah, I mean, just hanging on to the rear end, the front axle as well. But just trying to just tiptoe around the track to stay in the groove and not. And when I mean the groove, I mean literally. There's like a groove, you know, in turn 5, 15, and 16 that if you just get outside of, you get punished massively. So it's tricky in the heat today, but you know that's what makes it interesting. You know, if you're able to keep it inside that, keep it in line, and you're hopefully able to drive away.
The gap is currently 3.6 seconds. When you talk about handling that BMW, is Connor feeling that right now, or is that something that'll hit him as we get further in the stint?
It seemed like right in the middle phase of the stint there was a kind of an area where the fuel burn-off and the tire deg weren't kind of aligning, where you know essentially you have the peak of the tire initially with the brand new grip that you get that can overpower and the heaviness of the fuel, so you can go quick at the beginning, and then as you get through the middle phase of the stint, the tire deg starts to fall, and then eventually it does plateau, but that's when you still have weight on board. So the middle part of the stint is kind of the hardest, and the Pirellis then kind of take a level off, and by the end of it you start to kind of come back just because of the fuel burn off starting to help you again. So once the fuel came off, then you're like, okay, this isn't as bad. But yeah, right in the middle phase there, he's going to be starting to kind of feel that crappy part of the phase kind of about now, but he'll probably come out of it in the next couple laps.
Well, I don't know if RS1 is listening to that interview, but that might excite Jan out there, guys.
Suspected Mike, Kenton Cook, great start to the race. Connor DeFilippi in the car now. They'll be joined by IndyCar driver Connor Daly for the season finale, the Indy 8-hour in October. Connor right now qualifying for the Indianapolis 500 and would be safely in the field as they run at Indianapolis right now.
So Jan Halen on that last lap was about 3.5 tenths quicker than Connor DeFilippi. We're looking at about 12 laps to go in this race. So with that math, it's going to be really tight for both Pro and Pro-Am. Battles for the lead if the chasers maintain that delta till the checkered flag. And as Ken and Cook beautifully told us about the process going through the stint where you get to the middle part, the middle phase, and that's exactly where Connor DeFilippi is right now. He's going to struggle a bit with the car, but then as the fuel load burns off a little bit further and the weight distribution gets a little bit different, it seems like the car comes back to you. So he's just got to be patient. Don't overdrive the race car. Give it what it'll give you. But it's hard to do when you see someone like Jan Halen just catching you by 2 or 3 tenths every lap.
Gap has come down 3.2 seconds between DeFilippi and Halen. Between these two, the BMW and the Porsche, which do you think, Cal, might be better on its Pirelli P0s over an entire stint?
I would say maybe the Porsche is a little bit better in terms of protecting the rears. You know, obviously with a front engine car, you got the weight over the front axle, so you don't have a lot of weight back there, as we see Schwest.
Povolato.
Yeah, I don't think that's with Sherman possibly. Is it for position or not? No, Sherman's another lap down.
Yeah, and I think that might have been on Jeff Burton as well, who's just doing his thing, pedaling away. In fact, Jeff's last lap was a 2:03.9. Now he did a 2:05 flat, but he had some traffic on that lap. But a high 2:03 is right what he's looking for.
Yeah, last lap for Matt Bell was a 2:01.6, so that high 2 will definitely get it done.
That 2:01.6 from Bell is that car's best lap of the race, and he just did it one better, a 2:01.5.
Oh boy, that is not good news for regulator racing if he's starting to cut laps in the mid-ones on a regular basis.
Keep an eye on that. Currently 6th overall, 2nd in class. And eating into the gap that Philip Ellis helped to establish. This is for position here. Darren Turner, former 12 Hours of Sebring class winner, fending off one of the young Chargers stars of the future, heck, star of the present, Tom Sargent.
Yeah.
What a talent.
Really is. Great young man, great attitude. Great to see him get these opportunities. And man, who's DT just missed his turning point there a little bit for Christensen corner. Darren Turner there aboard the harder racing machine. Thomas heaping the pressure on.
Porsche Sprint Challenge Australia champ back in 2022 before taking his career stateside. Announced as part of Wright Motorsports lineup for that team's debut at the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa next month. He'll join Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier, who he raced against here in this championship last year. He's racing with them in the endurance rounds at IMSA this year.
Darren trying to protect there. Sargent elects just to keep it online, just trying to maximize, almost pushing Darren Turner there through turn 11. This is where it can get a little bit ugly. It's very easy to run in the back of someone as you're doing that little switch back there. Seems like Tom is just really focused on good, clean exits off some of these corners. See if he can wait till that back straightaway. Seem to notice this this weekend. I'm not sure how strong the Porsche is in terms of BOP down the back stretch here. We'll certainly get an indicator here when they get to turn 16 and leap on that loud pedal once again.
Tom sizing up Darren Turner, puts the power down. Sits right there in the slipstream, but can he make up any ground? Does he hold station? Does he lose ground?
Just trying to get some air to the nose. Talk about the heat here. That's obviously a factor today in terms of not overheating these engines, getting some clean air to the nose and to the radiator inlets, of course. Sargent tucks it to the inside, putting the pressure on as they come down the front stretch.
That Porsche, even if it is a bit wounded, does seem to have some good grip on offer. Able to keep that tight radius around turn 17. It gets him to the outside of Darren Turner. Rolls into turn 1 with a lot of speed around the outside. This will take some cooperation. Ultimately, Turner just a little too much speed at exit, able to nose ahead.
Yeah, and great experience there as well. So Darren's doing everything. He's just not going to let these youngsters sweep on by. Beautifully judged. Used all of the road on exit. Recognized that he'd just done enough to clear the Porsche by the time they got to the exit curbing. Tom immediately had a peek down to the inside into turn 3, but elected that it was not the gap he was looking for. Great little battle there. Darren's what, 51 years old now? So I think he's past his 50 mark anyway. He's got this youngster all over his tail.
Born April 13th of 1974. So yes, 51 now.
When I started racing.
Still rapid behind the wheel, so much experience as well. Brings a lot to this Heart of Racing team, and actually has spoken about how he feels reinvigorated as a driver joining this team. He's driven for them off and on the last couple of years and has had some cool opportunities with them.
He's a great guy, just one of those good blokes, you know what I mean? And he's got a lot of respect. He still can pedal the car. And I think for Ian James and that whole group has really embraced him being on board. And I think he said the team's fun, you know, it's invigorated. You know, because when you're the man, like you're one of the leading guys, and then you got these youngsters coming through, it's kind of tough. You're going through that transition phase, but he said he's really enjoying his racing, and he feels he can play a major part in this success moving forward.
This is the battle for third overall. Jeff Burton continues just to do his thing. Ran a 2:03.8 the last time by, which is perfectly respectable. Matt Bell trying to chase him down.
Choxy's anxious to get by here because he's still got that gap over Grenier. You can see in the backdrop there, that is a battle for the final podium position in the pro class. So Choxy's doing a really nice job here this afternoon.
Grenier, once he is through on Burton, that'll be the last of the pro class cars to do it. And then we'll have a really good sense for that gap between Burton and Bell. It continues to shrink, as you would expect at this stage of the race. Grenier to the inside of his fellow Mercedes runner, and Jeff Burton makes sure to make that as easy as possible. That does two things. One, it turns the other Mercedes loose, but also it means he loses as little time as possible. Now he just needs to focus forward, and if he can find that rhythm, run those high 203s, gives them a chance to steal a race win.
Yeah, you got about a 10-second lead over Matt Bell right now. Oh, here we go. That was tight. Late move there by Tom Sargent. Just forces Darren out wide there through Cunningham Corner. Named for a very famous racing great, and we're not talking PD, by the way.
No, sorry, Peter. Briggs Cunningham has lent his name to that corner.
See how this one develops. Watch that. Quick switch back. Oh, yeah, there was a little rub in his racing. I got a feeling, I don't want to make the call, but maybe give that position back and go racing again.
Yeah, give it back so they don't have to make the call, right?
Yeah. And I like those sort of calls. They've got some different angles at it to what we just saw, but we'll see what the call is. But yeah, right now I would say that time is certainly on Matt Bell's side in terms of grabbing that Pro-Am lead here. Gap is only at 10 seconds. We've got about 8 laps to go, so at 2 seconds he could potentially catch Jeff Burton with 3 or 4 laps to go in this race. Race needs to stay green, of course. That would certainly throw a spanner in the works for them.
Robbie Foley is a further 14 seconds back. That would be the next car in class. So again, even if a win isn't on the cards, it could be a podium finish for Jeff Burton and Philip Ellis, and crucially, it would put them ahead of the pairing that they're chasing in the points.
Exactly. It'd only be a 3-point swing versus currently a 10-point swing, but nonetheless, every point counts. And as we've seen before, race 2 is when they typically have their best opportunity. If there's any sort of yellow, that can minimize the gap that Philip Ellis has to work with.
Watching Jeff Burton at work. And I don't think we can stress enough just how much patience and how much diligence is required to execute this. It's so easy to get caught up in the cars that are catching you and trying to pass you, and you get caught up in a fight that you really don't need to be fighting, but he stays disciplined, and that's allowed them to have some of these good runs.
Yeah, and you're in a bit of a vacuum, right? You're not battling track position. Yeah, you're trying to minimize how many cars are getting by you and minimize the time loss when they're doing it, but it's all about the stopwatch. It's all about the clock and getting those messages as you now see the chasing DXDT machine on the front straightaway.
Yeah, they were on the same straight for the first time that time by. Burton ran a 2:03.9, Bell a 2:01.8, so 2 seconds difference. As you would expect, the bronze-graded Jeff Burton up against the pro in Matt Bell.
I think everyone felt this was potentially the winning combination here this weekend on what we saw in practice. Certainly McDonald did a great job here this weekend to set the table, did a really solid qualifying run and a really solid first stint as well. And this car will start from the front row alongside Robbie Foley for tomorrow's race, where the driver rotation is obviously reversed.
While this is going on, it should be noted Jan Halen continues to reel in Connor DeFilippi. It's not as dramatic of a change lap to lap, but there they are.
7/10 the last lap. That's
Correct.
pretty big, and there's only a 1.5-second gap right now. So Jan Halen, RS1 swept here last year with Spencer Bumpelli and Trent Hinman in the pro class. So they roll into this weekend with a solid setup for that Porsche and a new engineer who's kind of taken that and tried to take it to the next level. And Alex Sedgwick has really been a bit of a revelation this year. We didn't know much about him before we saw him in Sonoma, and he certainly has been very impressive. And you know, Jan Halen can still get the job done. So they're going to chase hard for this win. But you know, Connor DeFilippi, he's not afraid to get his elbows out as well.
No. And he's looking for a little vindication as well with the way that things played out at Circuit of the Americas. Battle here, too, starting to heat up with Mikhail Grenier now reeling in Varun Choksi.
Choksi's done a great job. His fastest lap of the race is actually a little bit quicker than the 34 car, a 2:01.61 versus a 2:01.64. So Varun has got up on the wheel in this race and is just trying to hold station right now.
He has been so impressive. It's easy to forget how little experience he has at this level. Soaking up so many lessons from Bill Oberlin over the last year and a half.
And two things here, you know, you got the fact that Varun and Bill want to finish on the podium, but also if they can hold off Grenier, that helps their teammate increase the buffer in points between a first and what would be a third or a fourth place finish. And that's dependent on Connor holding off Jan Halen, of course.
True. A lot in jeopardy still with 12 minutes to go in race one of the weekend at Sebring International Raceway. If you've been following GT action all day, starting with GT World Challenge Europe over at Zandvoort, this is a nice way to close things out. Let's do it again tomorrow, of course, as well. And Grenier wriggling him in, though. Mercedes looking stout. Remember, it came alive in the second half of the first stint, too. Stevens had fallen off of the second and third place cars, and then suddenly by the end of the stint he was right there again.
Yeah, it seemed like they had really good long run pace. We saw Mackay have that little moment there on replay coming through this sector of the racetrack right before he hit pit lane, but nonetheless, you're right, he did suddenly catch up to the cars he was immediately behind. And hopefully that is cut and paste with that scenario for Mikhail Grenier here late in the going. Just 11 minutes to run. Varun's doing a really solid job though. Nowhere near the experience of Mikhail Grenier. Another really impressive young driver in our paddock.
There we go, battle for the lead, hotting up in Pro-Am. Matt Bell closing in. It's down to just 3 seconds between first and second. Time not really a factor here. Bell with plenty of it to catch Jeff Burton and get that Corvette to the lead of the race.
Here is the gap across the stripe that last time, 2.7 seconds. So maybe within 2 laps here, Matt Bell can be pushing Jeff Burton for the lead in Pro-Am.
Should also note that we have not seen any message about that contact between Sargent and Turner being reviewed. So that would indicate that it's race on.
Traffic, will that be a fact here? As Aaron Povaledo immediately in front of Varun Choksi.
Aaron, a veteran though, with so much experience, he won't want to interfere with this fight for the overall podium.
Yeah, I think there's tremendous potential with that Schwest Povolato team. They're getting their arms wrapped around this Corvette as well for the first year of running it. But they've shown flashes of speed and give Aaron the right tools. And he's another driver who's a bit of a sleeper. He can certainly get the job done and put in really impressive performances.
No question about it. How many times do we see it at the GT4 level? And it's just a matter of time, it would feel, until that team gets the GT3 thing figured out. They've shown flashes, like you said, this year of some of that pace. Just need to put a full weekend together.
This would be huge for Varun if he can hang on to this with this sort of pressure. Seems to be keeping that gap reasonably stable. Let's take a look at their last lap across the line. Yeah, he was actually a 10th quicker than Grenier the last time through, so we'll see what happens this lap.
De Filippi just did his car's best lap of the race to help fend off that charge from Jan Halen. Jeff Burton, this is the first time he's had a car come up from behind that he is actually for position. Let's see how much he decides to fight this. Again, this is the bronze-graded driver in the Mercedes up against the pro in the Corvette. 8.5 minutes to go for the lead in Pro-Am. Here we come into turn number 1, and Bell is there. He has erased a deficit that had once been as much as 37 seconds.
Yeah, you just want to try and keep his rhythm and pounce immediately. You think, oh, there's plenty of time on the board. The last thing you want to see is a full course yellow. And I've been in this scenario before in my career. You think, oh, I got 10, 15, 20 minutes, wherever the case may be, and suddenly there's a caution. You're thinking, oh, I had an opportunity. I had to have gone for it, and you didn't. So that will play into affecting the team decision here as McDonald looks on.
Burton gives some space to the
did he
inside.
Miss the corner? Jeff gets a little bit wide there. He was fighting hard, almost missed his braking marker, but he manages to keep it together. Look for turn 10 as an opportunity here for Matt Bell to slice it down to the inside.
Pops out of line. Here comes the Corvette to the inside of the Mercedes for the lead in Pro-Am. DXDT. Matt Bell takes it to the point. The stream on a little delay. There's the reaction. He knows what that means. Now just 7.5 minutes away from the race win.
Yeah, and Blake certainly did his job as well. It's been a mega weekend for the whole group. Great car performance, great driving performance, big smile on his face. You're looking at the math and you think, well, it should just work out. Came together maybe a couple of laps sooner than we initially predicted, but some of that was probably Matt Bell's experience cutting through traffic versus Jeff Burton's ability to minimize the damage when faster cars were passing him.
More from the pits. Let's check in with Amanda.
We've been here waiting for that driver reaction from Blake McDonald. We came over here probably about 5-6 minutes ago and kind of suggested that the math is mathing for that Corvette, and Blake kind of shook his head and crossed both fingers on both hands. So you never want to give results until it's there. But I mean, if this ends the way it is with Jeff Burton as a runner-up in class, that would be the best finish on this opposite strategy. They have a 7th place finish in race number 1 at Sonoma and a 7th place finish in race number 1 at Coda.
I think it could have worked a little better at Sonoma, actually, but if you recall, they elected to try double stinting tires.
That's right.
And that ended up backfiring. They burned through that double stint instead of Pirelli's late in the run. But regardless, yes, this definitely is shaping up to be their best race run of the season, with Jeff Burton now 13.7 seconds in hand over the next car in class, which is Robbie Foley.
Yeah, and Foley is just hanging on to that final podium spot there. Aaron Telitz has kept him on as he sits about 0.8 of a second back. And also, as you look at the board there, you can see up top, Connor De Filippi overall and pro lead. That gap has gone up a little bit. Jan Halen had it down about 1.3, 1.4 seconds. It's actually ballooned out a little bit. So Connor's car has stayed really strong. Just as his teammate said, the car comes back to you a little bit at the end. I think Connor may be feeling that right now at a very critical stage of this race.
Something has gone amiss for Racers Edge Motorsports. Michael Cooper being shown as out down in 14th. Isaac Sherman a lap down, but this is why you wanted to get back out and try and log some laps. They might be able to take that position. That's an extra point if they're able to overcome and overhaul the Racer's Edge car. tough weekend for them on home soil. They're based not too terribly far away from where we are right here in Sebring.
Grenier there, I don't think he shortcut 15, but he was certainly using a lot of the entry room on the entry of 16. I wonder where he got it from, to be honest with you. I don't think he's behind the curb on the approach there. The camera shot didn't quite show that, but certainly he got a nice wide entry on that back straightaway. Varun's doing a really great job, though. He is just withstanding this pressure. It's not immediately on his rear bumper, but certainly from a time and visual perspective, looking in that rear view facing camera, he knows that Grenier is right there.
Connor DeFilippi has done a great job to manage this gap. Halen has been the quicker of the two, but you do wonder if maybe DeFilippi was holding something in reserve that he's now deploying, because he's found a little pace that car has not exhibited up to this point. Set the car's fastest lap a few laps ago, and although Halen is quicker, it's only by a tenth here, a tenth there, rather than the big gaps that we saw earlier on in this stint.
Yeah, it seemed like Jan was really strong there through the middle phase of that stint. As we look at the sector times, he was a tenth off Connor through the first sector, picks up almost 3 tenths in the second sector, so net gain on this lap by about 2 tenths.
Misspoke about Cooper. I saw the O and thought out. That's O for out lap, not out of the race. So whatever the issue was, they've been able to resume. Meanwhile, M-Class car that we saw a good opening stint from, didn't we? Scott Dolehite. They had a slow pit stop. I'm not really sure what the story was there, but Stefano Gattuso has gotten in and turned some good laps. They've had a nice solid day, which is exactly what this program was looking for.
Yeah, really shown great progression here this weekend with that switch up on the driver lineup with a bit more info coming into the team's tent with Stefano's experience with this Ford Mustang in World Endurance Championship. Really solid day. I mean, be running fast laps, just over a second off the best of the day is a really big jump in performance for this group.
Yeah, it is. Big strides for them. Hope for big things to come. It's so good to have Ford represented on the grid. The Mustang GT3, just a great looking car. Beautiful soundtrack as well. Popular all around the world these days.
Yeah, it's a beast. It is really high tech, though. Listen to that.
Not a bad 2 weeks for Stefano Gattuso, racing at Spa last week, Sebring this week. 2 of the classics in back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, and we're hearing on their pit stop time that was not ideal for Gattuso. It was really just being precautionary. Remember, they lost that wheel during qualifying, so just making sure everything was seated correctly. Recognized them, they're the sole AM entry this weekend, so they're looking for performance on the racetrack. They'll glean from that in terms of lap time and just want to execute a good, clean race, just as Connor DeFilippi is doing right here. A little bit wide there, kind of shoved it through 14 with a bit too much speed, but seems to have this gap under control here back to Jan Halen.
Really good job to manage the situation as Paul Sparta looks on, team owner for Random Vandals.
Kitted up.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's up next. Pirelli GT4 America still to come today.
Kenton's going to be in that race as well alongside Kevin Bohm.
We wait the white flag for the race leader, Connor DeFilippi. 1 lap to go. Jan Halen continues to chase. This time, though, the pace advantage to the BMW driver, able to extend the gap just a little bit, now up to 1.6 seconds.
Yeah, super impressive run here by Connor. He's done a really great job of recognizing that the car was not great through the middle phase, just like his teammate, experienced, I would assume, but just kept his head, no mistakes. Really, really solid day for this group, and going to be a huge swing in the points potentially. This is going to be a 13-point swing, and they came in 3 points behind, so maybe a 10-point lead at the end of the day.
Forgettable race weekend in a lot of respects for Circuit of the Americas. At least you hope so for them. You want to put some of that misfortune behind you as quickly as possible. Good bounce back right here at Sebring, exercising a few demons. Connor DeFilippi half a lap away from closing this out for the team as they look for another race win.
He might be buying his teammate Varun Choksi a beer tonight if they do indulge with a single beer between races, but because Varun's doing a great job holding on to that final podium spot and keeping the championship leaders behind.
Yeah, that is huge. If Choksi could do it as you have chronicled, that is a huge boon for the DeFilippi-Kenton Cook pairing in their pursuit of a title. For RS1, still looking for a breakthrough win, but they have been super close on a couple of occasions. Got good pace in that car. Excited that they now have some solid backing behind them, feeling confident that they'll be able to finish out the season. Through turn 17, Connor DeFilippi. The car started by Kenton Cook. A near perfect run for Random Vandals Racing. They take race one at Sebring International Raceway. Jan Halen, 1.7 seconds behind, will take second place. Now we wait for the leaders in Pro-Am. Matt Bell came to the lead with just under 10 minutes left. Blake McDonald kept them in striking distance in that first stint of regulator racing on their alternate strategy. Matt Bell able to cap it off with a virtuoso performance. Choksi and Grenier have seen the checkered flag, and now Matt Bell crosses the line and takes the victory for DXDT Racing and Corvette.
Great performance, just beautifully executed race. Had a strong race car, managed to use it and take it to victory. Jeff Burton, a solid job. That is a really great run for them. Second, really solid podium. We haven't seen that happen. Sure if it happened last year? Maybe. But anyway, a really solid day, and this has been a great performance for Dollar Height Racing as well.
Certainly has been. Racing themselves effectively in a class of one, but measuring themselves against where they are relative to the rest of the field, and this has been by far their most competitive outing yet in 2025. Thanks in no small part to the addition of someone with experience in this car. Stefano Gattuso joins up with the team, pairs up with Scott Dollarheight, and brings the car home. There is Scott, smile on his face. Dollarheight Racing completes the 90-minute run at Sebring with their best outing of 2025. So they'll be happy with that.
With his dad there, Bill. Ex-racer himself, so they're moving forward. They're making progress, which is great to see. A lot of passion there. They're running on a pretty tight budget, so would love a bit more support if anyone's out there, but nonetheless, that's a really solid day for that small group.
Without a doubt. Big day as well for Random Vandals. They put both of their cars on the podium. Overall win to Kenton Cook and Connor DeFilippi. Evidently, the problem for the Racer's Edge team was a drive time miscalculation, so they had to do a pass through the pit lane to get on the right side of that. That's why Michael Cooper made that unexpected second trip through the pits, cost them some track position. They'll settle for 14th overall, 9th in class here today. Fantastic result for this team. I think they shot their shot a little bit in practice with Matt Bell showing the way in one of those practices and indicating what kind of pace that they had here this weekend, and then put it on full display over 90 minutes here in race number one. These are your class winners: Cook and DeFilippi, McDonald and Bell, Dollarheight and Gattuso. Provisional results from the race. Random Vandals by 1.7 seconds over RS1. They continue to make strides, though. Sedgwick with a good opening stint. Halen closed it off. Oberlin and Choksi. Bill, a big mover in his stint, too. Overcame a lack of track position at the very beginning to actually get up to the second spot there for a little while. It was the pit sequence that cost them the second position on the road. Stevens and Grenier looking for a little bit of performance. They'll go back to the drawing board overnight. Podium in Pro-Am DXDT, Regulator Racing, Turner Motorsport, with a big day in the points for Ellis and Burton.
Yeah, really big. To take any of that margin out from Rothberg and Foley is important. It's really tight now. Be 3 points here tonight heading into tomorrow's race. Wonder with Foley, he didn't make the impression I thought he could. Maybe that extra weight doesn't hurt him so much over a single lap, but over a race distance could possibly be being a bigger factor.
Something we'll have to ask about overnight. That car will start on the overall pole tomorrow, so they have that going for them. But it's a different BMW that parks it in victory lane. Connor DeFilippi will climb out as a race winner at Sebring. Thumbs up all around. Plenty to celebrate. Varun Chonksi there to extend a congratulatory handshake as well. And before too much longer, we will hear from our race winners.
Fun race. Good to see the ebb and flow with that reverse strategy, whether the teams can hang on or not. Certainly some really strong performances in really, really brutal conditions here this afternoon.
DeFilippi, you could tell just how hot it was. Look at red in the face, sweat all over. It was a real physical challenge today in the Florida heat. Let's hear from Amanda Busick now. She is standing by in victory lane, so we have a chance to hear from our race winners.
Absolutely a physical race down here. Just asked Connor how he was doing. Jan Halen did get out very exhausted as he was trying to chase you down, Connor. We talked to Kenton how hard that BMW would have been able to manage during the center of that race, but it looked like you gained pace there at the end. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, we just had to be really precise how we drove the stint. I knew if I pushed early, I would be crying by the end, so I just tried to be consistent early on. I knew I'd go through that middle phase of the stint where we were going to struggle, and that's where Jan was coming. And I was, just hopefully that his tires would be gone by the time he caught me, and I was able to kind of just continue doing my pace there at the end. That was all we had. I made a couple of mistakes, which allowed him to get a little closer, but no, it was great racing and excited for race 2 tomorrow.
Well, as Kenton Cook comes over here, Kenton, I'm going to find your Pirelli hat really quick so I can interview you. If I can have Kenton Cook's hat, please. We'll just have Connor's go on him. That's good. Kenton got the win here. It started on your stint. To come back from team issues, we'll call them, in COTA, how much of a retribution is this?
It's good to be able to grow from mistakes and to be able to improve as a team. And today everyone was firing on all cylinders, and Connor did a good job to hold off Jan at the end there. And it was good. Yeah, it was nice to be able to come out in the end with a win.
What you told us happened.
Yeah, got a little faster and a little slower, but yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was. Connor knows how to do his thing, and obviously has been a very good thing for BMW in his time. So happy to be a teammate with him and with Random Vandals.
We'll see if you can get you as a third man in the booth one day. Nice job, Kenton.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it'd be cool, right? I would enjoy it.
I think we would too. Don't know how many adjustments will be needed for that race car overnight, but he needs to make an adjustment on that hat. Kenton Cook's on the working on that right now. So after the first race of the weekend, this is the way the pro points are stacking up, with Connor DeFilippi and Kenton Cook. Strong performance today. Relative struggles for JMF with Mackay Stevens and Mikael Grenier. They'll need to bounce back. And Sedgwick and Halen, another runner-up result, has them sitting third in points.
Yeah, big swing there, 13 points. They came in with a 3-point deficit, now a 10-point lead.
Happens fast, and with just the 4 cars in the class, no margin of error.
The wins are huge.
Exactly. And DNFs, if they come in the first half of the race, can be crippling, as we've talked about over the course of the year. Back down to victory lane, and Amanda.
Matt, when I talked to you before you got into the Corvette, you were a little hesitant about that gap to Jeff Burton and Philip Ellis. You said you had fast shoes on. When did you know that you had it done?
The lap after I'd done it. The Phil and Jeff, the Regulator Racing guys, they gave us a real hard target to get. You know, they kind of did the opposite strategy here, starting Phil and finishing with Jeff. Yeah, I had to work so hard out there to chase those guys down. They really give us a run for their money, but Blake did a great job in the first stint, kind of kept us in sort of P2 with ahead of the other bronze drivers. Awesome stint from him, and then I just had to get in and get my head down and they told me 38 seconds when Jeff came out. I was like, oh, that's going to be quite a hard task to hunt down, but yeah, managed to do it in the end.
And Blake, Aaron Gahagan came right over to you and said, great job on your stint when you got out. For someone racing the opposite strategy, trying to hold it, what's that experience like for you?
Well, it's really stressful when I get out of the car because, like you said, there's a 38-second gap that he had to make up. But it's working well for us. I don't think we're going to change anything.
Congratulations, guys.
Great result for that team. And let's take a look at how the Pro-Am points look after today's race. Rothberg and Foley, but now by just 3 over Burton and Ellis. And with that win, McDonald and Bell find themselves sitting a solid 3rd.
Yeah, if they go on a bit of a streak here in the summer, they can definitely be a factor in this championship. The Corvette looks really strong right now. Points lead was halved here today. It was 6 coming in.
M-Class Dollarhide Racing standing by with Amanda.
And Stefano got to bring that Mustang to the front stretch, to the collapse of Scott Dollarhide and the entire team. How impactful was this race for the Mustang today?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. It's my first experience in the US, and it's been amazing. I'm very happy about the result because we won our category, but we have a very consistent pace for all the race, and I'm very happy for the hard work that the guys made yesterday evening. So thanks a lot, and thanks also to my teammate Scott.
Scott, when I talked to you in the GT Driver Club, you told me that the Mustang was like a 5 out of 10. What do you say now?
I mean, we're progressing more and more every time. These guys at Ford Performance have done an absolutely amazing job. So I'm not quite sure the exact number, but it's increasing. So everybody, has been working tirelessly to improve this program. And yeah, I can't say enough about the guys.
Thank you, Scott. Enjoy the champagne.
Thank you so much.
A look back on the first race of a doubleheader weekend at Sebring International Raceway. Pit lane crowded, of course, everyone getting ready to go. Green flag wave, just over 90 minutes to go, and the Aston of Gray Newell struggled to get going. That bunched everybody up. It really cost CRP Racing some serious damage to the front of their car. Kyle Washington had a spin. Ultimately, didn't cost them too much. Tom Sargent got back in and did make a nice recovery drive. Bill Auberland, the big mover in the early going, was able to jump past 2 of his pro class competitors to get to second behind his teammate. Second in class, that is, because Philip Ellis was out in front overall on that alternate strategy. Traffic jam in the Pro-Am field. Ellis continuing to do his thing, building a lead that was roughly 37 seconds after the pit stop exchanges. That's what Jeff Burton would have to nurse to the finish. Connor DeFilippi came through in the lead of the race after the pit stop sequence and ran down Jeff Burton to take the overall lead. It took a while, but Matt Bell in the final 10 minutes did track down Jeff Burton. That was the reaction as the Corvette went to the front in Pro-Am. The checkered flag, though, waved first for Random Vandals Motorsports. Kenton Cook and Connor DeFilippi take the overall win in race 1 here at Sebring.